Alexander Pierce had built an empire from the ground up, his name etched into skyscrapers and business magazines, but all the wealth in the world could not erase the ache in his heart every time he looked at his son, Ethan. At 8 years old, Ethan was bright and full of curiosity, but cerebral palsy had left his small body frail and his movements unsteady. Since his wife had walked out years ago, unable to handle the challenges of raising a child with special needs, Alex had buried himself in work, convincing himself that building fortune meant providing for Ethan. Yet deep down, he knew he was avoiding the harder truth, that his son needed more than just the best doctors, therapies, and equipment money could buy. One rainy evening, after returning from a grueling business trip, Alex decided to take Ethan out for dinner, choosing a modest small-town diner instead of the luxury restaurants they usually visited. The warmth of the place contrasted sharply with his tailored suit and polished shoes, but Ethan's face lit up at the sight of colorful menus and the smell of fresh pancakes. As Alex wheeled Ethan to their table, a young waitress approached with a smile that was neither forced nor polite. It was genuine, reaching her eyes and softening her entire face. Her name was Lily, and she crouched down to greet Ethan directly, asking about his day as though he were the most important customer in the room. When Alex excused himself to take a call outside, he glanced back through the window and froze. Ethan had dropped his napkin and was struggling to pick it up, but before he could ask for help, Lily knelt beside him, spoke a few gentle words, and without hesitation, lifted him into her arms to adjust his position. It was not done with the awkward caution of someone afraid to offend or hurt. She moved with the ease of someone who had done it countless times before, her voice low and reassuring. Ethan's laughter rang out, a sound Alex hadn't heard so freely in months. He stood outside for a long moment, watching the two of them as if the world had slowed down, wondering why this stranger could make his son light up in a way he, with all his resources, could not. When he returned to the table, Ethan was animatedly telling Lily about his favorite space stories, and she was listening as if each word mattered. That night, Alex couldn't shake the thought, perhaps there were some things money could never buy. The following morning, Alex found himself distracted during a meeting, his mind replaying the image of Lily holding Ethan as though he were family. He had seen countless people interact with his son, nurses, therapists, even well-meaning acquaintances, but there had always been that subtle stiffness, that fleeting look of pity they couldn't quite hide. With Lily, there had been none of that. Her movements were natural, her smile unforced, and her tone spoke to Ethan as an equal rather than a child defined by limitations. That afternoon, against his own usual routine, Alex drove back to the diner, telling himself it was only because Ethan had mentioned wanting magic pancakes again. The moment they stepped inside, Ethan's eyes lit up and he began waving as soon as he spotted Lily. She hurried over, her face brightening genuinely at the sight of him, and bent down to greet him before even acknowledging Alex. She asked if he'd enjoyed the coloring book she'd given him to take home the night before, and Ethan grinned so wide it warmed something in Alex's chest that had long been cold. As the three of them chatted, Alex learned more about Lily. She revealed that she had grown up caring for her younger brother, Noah, who had a disability of his own. After their parents passed away when she was only 16, she had become both sister and caretaker, working at the diner to support them and pay the bills. There was no bitterness in her voice as she spoke, only a quiet pride and a strength that seemed to run deep. Just as Alex was about to settle the bill, a sudden downpour swept across the town, the kind that turned sidewalks into streams. Without hesitation, Lily lifted Ethan from his chair, holding him close as they waited under the diner's awning. From the car, Alex paused for a long moment, watching her through the windshield. The way she shielded his son from the rain, speaking softly to keep him calm, struck him with unexpected force. It wasn't just kindness, it was instinct, the kind of care that couldn't be taught or bought. That evening, as Ethan fell asleep with a smile on his face, Alex realized he was beginning to look forward to something he hadn't in years, the simple joy of seeing his son happy, and the possibility that this young woman might be the key to a change he didn't even know they needed. Over the next few weeks, the diner became more than just a place for lunch, it became a bridge between Alex and his son, a bridge that Lily seemed to hold together effortlessly. Alex began rearranging his packed schedule, skipping board meetings and delaying business calls just so he could be there when Ethan's face lit up at the sight of her. It wasn't just the way she remembered his favorite syrup or the way she found ways to make him laugh when he was frustrated, it was how she made Ethan feel seen, as though his wheelchair was invisible and only his spirit mattered. One Saturday, acting on a rare impulse, Alex invited Lily and her younger brother, Noah, to join them at the park. Noah, shy at first, quickly bonded with Ethan, and the two boys began a slow but determined game of catch, adapting their movements without ever making each other feel less. Lily sat beside Alex on the bench, her gaze following the boys with that same warm attentiveness Alex had come to associate with her. Then, without warning, she turned to him and asked, "Why do you always watch Ethan like you're afraid to lose him?" The question caught Alex completely off guard, and for a moment he couldn't find the words. He tried to deflect, saying he just wanted to make sure his son was okay, but Lily didn't let him off so easily. She told him, gently but firmly, that while Ethan's medical care was important, what he needed more was for his father to truly be present, not just physically there, but emotionally engaged. Her words lingered in the air, heavy and uncomfortably true. Alex realized that for years, he had hidden behind his role as provider, pouring money into treatments and equipment, but rarely slowing down enough to share the little moments that made life meaningful. That evening, back at home, Ethan eagerly told him every detail about playing with Noah, his hands moving animatedly, his voice filled with joy. Alex listened longer than usual, setting his phone aside completely. As his son finally drifted to sleep, Alex sat quietly in the dimly lit room, the echo of Lily's words pressing against his thoughts. She had seen something in him he hadn't dared to admit, and maybe, just maybe, she was right. A few days later, after another sunny afternoon at the park, Alex asked Lily to take a walk with him while Ethan and Noah played nearby under the watchful eyes of a park attendant. His tone was softer than she had ever heard as he said, "You've changed my son's life, Lily, and you've changed mine too." She immediately shook her head, insisting it wasn't her but Ethan's own strength that was shining through. Yet Alex couldn't ignore the truth. He had watched his son grow more confident, more joyful, and more open in just a few short weeks, and every step of that change had happened with her by his side. They walked in silence for a moment before Alex confessed that he had spent years believing money could solve anything, but now he understood that time, love, and presence were far more valuable. Lily listened quietly, her eyes soft but unreadable, until Alex finally told her why he had asked her to walk with him. He wanted her to be part of Ethan's life, not as a waitress they visited at a diner, but as someone who would be there for the milestones, the bad days, and the quiet moments in between. He offered her a full-time position as Ethan's personal aide, with a salary generous enough to allow her to quit the diner and focus on caring for both Ethan and Noah. Lily hesitated, unsure if stepping into their world would change things between them, but when she glanced toward the playground and saw Ethan looking at her with pleading, hopeful eyes, her resolve softened. She accepted with a small, emotional smile. In the months that followed, the four of them became an unconventional but inseparable unit. Alex learned to turn off his phone during dinners, to trade late-night conference calls for bedtime stories, and to measure success not by business growth but by the sound of his son's laughter. Ethan, for his part, began standing for longer stretches, greeting the world with newfound confidence, and proudly introducing Lily and Noah as part of his family. The billionaire who once lived in glass towers had discovered that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars or deals, but in the people you hold close, and it had all begun the night he saw a waitress carry his son, not just in her arms, but into a life neither of them would ever be the same without.